Okay, guys, we've got a bootleg Mortal Kombat 1 PCB here. um, it works great actually. It's got sound built into it and everything. You don't have a separate sound card. I mean, it's all built in. It is kind of a double stack. It's got this smaller board on top, and it's in really good shape. I did notice it looked like someone might have put a new volume. See if I can get this to focus. A new volume potentiometer right there in the center of the screen. Right there, because I noticed just a little soldering on the back. And those wires you see, this does not have a plug for a kick harness on it. I think the low punch and kick buttons for player 1 and 2 are piped through to the unused pins that are on the JAMMA harness. So someone could, tinker with their wiring on their JAMMA harness and get it to go that way. But what I did is trace those connections to some easy to access places on the back of the PCB, and I just tacked these wires on with solder, and I've got them labeled so that you know it's player 2, low kick, and such like that. And those could be easily removed, but I want to leave them on in case somebody wants to use them. They may have a non-standard cabinet and they can wire those themselves. But anyway, just going to show you that it works here. If you hear any noise in the background, that's my bird eating seed. The only real difference I can tell with this PCB, I mean, the only thing that's major is a little bit of the sound. Now, it's got good sound, actually. Every once in a while, a sound effect is different, like Liu Kang throwing his fire. And I want to say, let's see, every once in a while an uppercut or something won't make quite as loud of a sound. And I think the music on some stages, at least one stage I know, to me sounds just a little slower. But it's actually, well, you can hear it. It's actually pretty good. I played through the entire game a few minutes ago, and it went all the way through with no problems, nothing like that. So it feels pretty much like playing a real PCB. But I have it set to free play. If you have a test switch on the inside to get into your menus, for your adjustables, it works with this board just fine. You can go in there and change all the settings. I put it on free play, and it's got 2 rows of dip switches. Let's see if I can get this to focus right there. And every one of those, from the first set of switches and the second set of switches, are set up just like the factory. I made sure they all seem to be set to change the same things. And I just turned it to, I think it was the settings from the setup menus for coinage and everything. And I just went into the menus and set it for free play. But it all works good. I don't have a low attack set up or anything. So
wins. Flawless victory.
Now see, that's not a normal sound. Usually it's like a punch. I can't remember if he screams when you do that. I believe he does. But like I say, it's just a few sound effects and a little bit of change in some of the music. Otherwise, you'd be hard-pressed to tell this was an original board if you were just a normal player and not like someone who is crazy about Mortal Kombat, Excuse my playing, I'm doing this one hand, so. And I can't do a finishing move with one hand, especially without the low punch button, I think. 4 down, forward low punch, I believe, for Sub-Zero. But that's it. I'll show you real quick. You can go into the setup. And I'm just using the test switch button in there, and it goes right to it. It's got all the same settings. The only thing that doesn't work properly in here, I think, is if you go into the diagnostic settings for the CPU board. There's nothing wrong with the CPU board. It just doesn't have the original hardware this test is made, to test for all the chips. It shows some of them are working, but then see some of them come up red. Now earlier I tried this test, and it didn't even go through all this. It just came up and said something about an error or something in a couple of the chips. Well, this is actually going through the entire test now, and it's showing errors on some of these ROMs and stuff. Because on original Mortal Kombat 1 board, those chips would be there for it to do its test too. But it'll probably come up and say, oh, error. ROM chip's bad. Press any button. Soundboard test. General test. Now, even though it says sound interrupt functional or detected, there's no single tone to show that it tested the soundboard. Well, it's got built-in sound. Somehow it's emulating it. Now, you can go in and play all the tunes. And the little potentiometer, it does control the sound. Now, it's a little scratchy. It probably needs to be worked out back a little. See how we turned it down? That's loud. A little too loud. See, it's a little scratchy. It just needs to be worked a little. It hadn't been played much in a long time. But really working pretty good. Go into game adjustments like free play. You can turn it on and off. Computer difficulty. If you wanted to go up, set it to very hard. Free play. Let's see. You can turn that off, but I just leave it on. And utilities. You can clear different things. I think. See, you can test your monitor patterns just like the original. They got the colors, color bars, crosshatch pattern. If this image is jumping, it's just because my phone keeps trying to refocus. It's nothing to do with the picture. The picture is really rock solid here. Everybody knows how hard it is sometimes to film a CRT. Flip the switch back up. Let's see if I can flip it. And I think this said version 3, didn't it? Let me make sure. Yeah, version 3. Revision 3, excuse me. But it's running pretty good, guys. It's a really good replacement for the original factory board, especially since it has the built-in sound and everything. The only thing to me that's, a little aggravating is just because the low punches and low kicks for player 1 and 2, they're on unused pins on the JAMMA connector, on the edge connector. But if you run your own loom for the JAMMA harness, you could straighten that out easy. Or just use the wires that I've already got soldered to the back. Had some points that were just more convenient. But those wires are easy to remove, no problem.